happy to bring in. Mr. Chandrasekaran is, if I can say, truly an institution builder, starting at the TCS straight out of college and then leading it into becoming one of the largest private sector employer in India and the country's most valuable company at that point in time. And he's taken this forward in this present position even today. And the Tata Group has become fitter than ever. In fact, leverage of some of the Tata Group flagship companies is less than 1. Since Chandra took over the chairmanship 5 years ago, the market cap of the group itself as a whole has almost trebled, with while some companies having delivered even higher multiples. Such a reward to shareholders just possible due to his careful management, which has really built up trust in the group. The deleveraging and better capital allocation helped tremendously, I would imagine. And also as an entrepreneur, Chandra has also never been afraid to take risks. He has restructured the group by boldly exiting certain businesses, as well as he has entered into new businesses, which is a lesson for many in forward-looking entrepreneurship. The Air India privatization, your leadership, landmark event, and it really sets the pace for the template for India's bold, ambitious privatization program also. And he's today spearheading the Tata Group into the future with, as one always sees, his 4 identified sort of themes: digital, supply chain resilience, new energy, health. And these are all sectors of the future. And he's driving the change in the Tata Group to continue to lead in each one of them. I cannot help but notice that all these themes are aligned to some of the very important national priorities of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to add that CII's association with the Tata Group also goes back a very, very long way, and it runs deep. And many of you know that the first Indian company that joined CII in 1912 was Tisco, and CII enjoyed the privilege of having the leadership and guidance of many, many startup stalwarts in the recent past, Mr. Dr. Jamshed Irani, Mr. Muthuraman, and this year, TV Narendran, who has been the president of CII. So this is a very, very special year, and therefore Chandra's presence at this particular conference is of great, great value to all of us over here. And we look forward to his insights on this very important title subject of the conference. And we have with him, we will have with him Dr. Janmejaya Sinha, chairman of the Boston Consulting Group. Janmai would be leading a Q&A and a conversation with Chandra. And as all of us know, Janmai has led BCG, including at the global level. And his strategic thinking and future gazing has helped us so much. And he also, as BCG and as an individual, been very, very closely associated with our institution. So I would, with that, I'd now once again welcome and request Mr. Chandrasekaran to give his address, following which Janmai will shoot his questions. Mr. Chandrasekaran.
Thank you, Chandrajit, for the graceful words. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and honor to have the opportunity to share a few thoughts on the Future Ready Summit by CII. I will make some opening comments and then look forward to engaging with Janmai and answer the questions that are put to me. To look at the future, a few words on the past. In the last 75 years since independence, we have come a long way. India, at the time of independence, used to be 3% of world's GDP. Now we are about 7% of the world GDP. Our economy has grown 100 times in these 75 years. Many have escaped hardship because of this growth. In the last 10 years alone, we have lifted about 270 million people out of poverty. Our economy has changed beyond recognition in these 75 years. We have entered new businesses and have flourished in many sectors. Today, we have the world's third largest startup ecosystem. In 2022 so far, we have been producing one unicorn every week. Aadhaar, a digital identity, is used by 99.7% of the population. So there are many such data points I can give, but still we have a long way to go. Whether it is in terms of women employment, still the number of people below the poverty line, access to healthcare, access to education for all. There are many, many such things we still need to address. The recent history has been relentless. First, a global pandemic, identity wars, military conflict, rise of cryptocurrency, growing inequality, decades of experience all seems to have been squeezed and packaged in a couple of years. Out of all this, there are many trends that are emerging, which will have a big impact on economies, countries, and businesses, both nationally and globally. There are many trends out there to talk about, but I'm going to mention 5 of them, which I feel are most critical. And these are megatrends that will shape all of us in businesses and society. And I will share a few thoughts on how at the Tata Group we are looking at these trends and we are adapting, adopting, and making the transition and leverage them for the future to be ready. First is the digital adoption. From work to health to education to shopping. In the last 2 years, internet has penetrated ever further into daily life of everyone. At the same time, advances in AI, cloud, and data technology have raced forward. Already, proprietary AI and data are separating top performing companies from the rest. Soon, all businesses have to become AI and data businesses. No industry can escape this trend. But this development is a huge opportunity for India. Because of our tech strength, we are extremely well placed to reimagine the future, reimagine every industry, every business to be a data business and an AI business. This will really help us to fix the structural problems we have seen in this country forever. But this is not just about preparing for the domestic industry. This is also for playing a big role globally in every industry and companies that we operate in. The second is the supply chain rebalancing. The supply issues that we experienced during the pandemic and also the supply issues that is arising out of the geopolitical situation, whether it is the China-US, whether it is the Ukraine-Russia, and what have you, is fundamentally rebalancing the global supply chain. Supply chains have to be designed for resiliency, not only for efficiency. But from an Indian perspective, this is a global opportunity for us. I believe India has an important role to fulfill the void that is getting created in the global supply chain by taking a leadership position and seeing it as a huge opportunity. I call it the India Plus opportunity because we will need partnerships. A supply chain rebalancing also means a rebalancing of global growth. What you will see in the coming decade is 70% of the world's growth will come from the emerging market. We're already seeing this in the immediate year, where India's growth is going to be higher than most countries or almost all countries that you can name. At the same time, India's inflation, at least I can think of it for a long time, is going to be lower than the inflation of the West. It's a very, very unique situation we are in. The third is sustainability. It's like two trains moving in the opposite direction. On the one side, the pressure on making the climate transition is only going to increase. Any plan that we have towards making this transition will come under pressure, so that the deadline will only get advanced going forward. As the problem of carbon emission, the impact on environment is becoming more and more visible. And at the same time, the global support for businesses that are based on new energy, that is going to receive a huge acceptance globally from all stakeholders, not necessarily investors only, from all stakeholders, is going to accelerate the whole momentum. And the move towards electric vehicles, move towards renewable energy, move towards hydrogen, batteries, storage solutions, water efficiency, not only water neutrality, circular economy solutions, so that the waste management can be effective, because we don't want to create future problems. While we make one transition, we create another problem. All of this is going to happen, and it will require a unique startup ecosystem in India, new technological breakthroughs, and India needs to participate in that. We have done it in technology, we're doing it in fintech, we have seen some of that in telecom. We have a huge opportunity to play a pivotal role in bringing these technologies, be it in materials or be it in energy. I think that is a tremendous business opportunity. Fourth is health. Companies will have to think more about health. Health-related, wellness-related value propositions will matter in all industries. You will see those value propositions even in those industries which will seemingly look unconnected to health. Safety and convenience will be central to any consumer business going forward. And the fifth trend, where we need to apply our mind, is going to be the global talent pool. There is going to be a lot of challenges in attracting talent, and the models have to shift away from the traditional models. And there will be new technology platforms to engage with talent, and sort of a talent cloud. The concept is to have the ability to access talent 24/7 from any part of the world. Skills will become far more important than expansive formal education. The whole talent architecture will change, not only in services industry, but across all industries. Because even in manufacturing, there is going to be advanced manufacturing, new way of manufacturing things. Robots will play, bots will play significant role. At the Tata Group, we are in a massive transformation to become future ready. Like Chandrajit said earlier, we have addressed our balance sheet issues. Companies are very fit. We are seeing revenue growth, profitability growth, and more importantly, cash flow growth across the system. We are transforming our core businesses to be future ready. A transition where we are tightly integrating or embedding digital, data, AI, and sustainability at the core of the business, be it in strategy and most importantly, in the business model itself. And we are creating new businesses to address the supply chain rebalancing opportunity. In terms of transition, our auto company has made a significant transition in passenger cars. In fact, our market shares have gone up because we made this transition. In commercial vehicles, we are looking at alternative energy, we are looking at hydrogen, fuel cells. We are doing the same thing in Jaguar Land Rover. Our power company is shifting heavily towards not only utility scale renewables, but consumer renewables. And we are doing the same thing in steel, not only in terms of recycling, but also in terms of preparing a blueprint towards hydrogen. We are into carbon capture. Water is a big theme across the group, where every company will not only become water neutral, but will go beyond that. We have a group level agenda on sustainability, which we'll be announcing shortly, where we have a group level goal towards becoming carbon neutral, but at the same time, we will address a huge impact that we can create on the communities. And in terms of new businesses, we launched our super app to prepare ourselves for a omni-channel digital consumer-facing ecosystem. We have launched a very large-scale precision manufacturing electronics company, which has global aspirations. We have launched a company for creating a 5G and beyond telecom gear for the global markets, and we are preparing growth. I have not said it in the group, but since you asked the question, there are at least 2 more S's we will add. We'll continue on the simplification, synergy, and scale, but we'll add sustainability and speed.
I'm going to ask you a bit of a personal question, which you will have to extend to the group in your answer.
Market, good to look at the competition. It's good to look at the opportunity. But fundamentally, what you do will depend on your context. And in a marathon running, you know that you've got to be fit if you want to perform. So even in business, I feel that that's why this balance sheet is so critical if you want to have a better P&L. And there are many aspects of marathon running that comes to my mind in various walks of life in my own life. It could be businesses, it could be strategy, it could be operations, it could be talent, it's teamwork. The only reason you run the race is because after 30 kilometers, you give up actually. The only reason you're running is everyone else is running. So unless or otherwise, you have that spirit in the company.
Yeah. The Tata Group would be perhaps the most ethical group that exists. You know, you have a brand which has some elements which are very clear. You know, you've been involved in nation building, you are ethical, you have the ability to vision at scale, you know, I mean, in terms of as a group. I saw you add speed, you know, to the words that are going to come into your next term. What other parts, what other things would you like your brand to stand for? There are some things which are very clear. You know, it is well recognized in India that it would perhaps be amongst the top recruiting brands. People would never hesitate in joining the Tata Group. They would feel that it's got good governance standards. And right now, I mean, the performance of most companies is really quite eye-catching. So if you project forward, what would you add to your brand?
I think let me just comment on what you said. I think I'm going to state the obvious because everyone in the audience probably know this. But nevertheless, I'll state it. I think we are fortunate to have such a legacy. And it's because of the way the group has been run, has been envisaged, how the purpose is very deeply ingrained in the group's culture, ethos, more than 100 years. And the value systems, whether you call it ethical value or whether you call it the concern for the society or treating people with dignity, and there are various facets of it. These are all deeply ingrained in the group. And it doesn't take a lot to tell people to be caring. Take a COVID example. It's one thing to come up with a program at the group center by forming a committee of CEOs. But before you do that, people are out doing the right thing and doing their bit. That is very deeply ingrained in the group, the DNA of the group. So I always say that trust is there. We just need to continue to live to keep deserving that trust. That's what I always say. It's not about doing something. It is more about continuing on the journey with intensity. You asked about brand. I think the group is known for, as you said, for the ethical standards and so on and so forth. But at the same time, we have to be driving performance. We also have to become the aspiring brand for the young India. So important to be able to do that. And that requires doing, because with history comes complexity. So we need to continue to be very strong on the foundation that we have, on the core values that we have, but at the same time, adding these extra elements.
A very interesting question has come from the audience. I really think it's a very profound question, and I'm going to read it out to you. It's worthy of being read fully. In India, one of the weaknesses for industry has been that we have probably been a little behind the curve when it comes to investing in R&D and innovating. But there are many Tata companies which do not fall in this category. What would be your advice to your own group companies and also to larger industry on how to approach the whole area of innovation and R&D?
I think I won't be so critical about Indian companies. But in order to create the future and to seize the opportunity that we have in hand, because we are at a stage that let us look at the future. What do we have to achieve? We are going to be the third largest economy. So it's going to happen. But we have to achieve it in such a way that growth is enjoyed by all. We can't have the gap becoming wider. According to me, that is one fundamental thing. The basic quality of life has to be enjoyed by all. We have to lift hundreds of millions of people in the coming decade out of poverty. At the same time, we also have to achieve the sustainability, climate change targets. So we have a set of goals which, if you look at it, may look conflicting. But actually, they're not conflicting if you see each one of these as opportunity. And in order to convert them into opportunity, we need innovation. We need R&D because India's problems are unique. So my suggestion would be that we all have to, whichever area we are working on, we have it in us because we have the best brains. We have a lot of engineers, a lot of talent. And how do we keep the people in doing research? Because people do PhDs. After that, they don't continue research. They then go and join an IT company. I see that all the time. So when people do PhD, why can't they, even if they join the IT company, how can they be in research side of things? Because many times the research is not paid well in this country. So we need to respect research, and we've got to create a compensation structure that promotes research on the one side. On the other side, a lot of coalitions have to come between academia and industry and among the industry. So we can learn this. We don't have to reinvent. We can learn, but definitely we need to push this. And we, in a manner of speaking, some of this will happen because the market will force. But the opportunity is there for us to make a global impact in some of the innovation. So many areas in which we can really dominate if you make that investment. Even China has done that. You know this. China has done that. So why we can't do?
In your book, Digital, you had raised one of the issues, one of the most important pressing issues in India was the absence of jobs. And the fact that there cannot be a healthy India unless most Indians are productively engaged. So I'm going to ask you and put you on the spot a bit, The biggest sector which is creating jobs today is not large industry, but is SME. What are you going to do with SME?
See, first of all, I just want to be honest to say that we can't do anything alone. We can be a catalyst. We can play our part. And there are certain areas we can take the lead. To my mind, the fundamental problem of jobs has to do with two or three things. One is most of the jobs are informal. Second is that the skill levels of people are low. So we have this concept which we call in the book as missing middle. Either we do the missing middle. First is, I feel with the help of AI and other technologies, we can significantly enhance the piloting some of that, and definitely there we want to make a big impact by a combination of skills institute and sector by sector. Wherever we can play a part, we will do that. We're looking at healthcare as one of the areas. We're looking at a number of other industries where we will definitely deploy that particular concept. It will do two things. It will create more jobs on the one hand. Second hand, it will increase the income levels of the people at the low end by at least 15% is our estimate. without accounting for inflation. Second, on the small and medium businesses, we are working on a platform. Already we are operational, but we are not formally launched it, where we have a lot of SMEs in the platform, and we are trying to do 3 or 4 things. One is we want to address the financing for SMEs. Second, we are trying to see what operating skills they need and how we can enhance their productivity, how we can help them participate in a larger pie on the businesses they are doing. So we have 2, 3 objectives with which we are working on this platform. So hopefully, once we establish it clearly, we can scale this up. So I do believe that addressing the SME needs will unlock not only a tremendous growth in economy, but will address many of the things we talk about on the quality of life and equality gap, creation of better paying jobs, all of these things. I think SME is the core.
One of the things which the Prime Minister has talked a lot about today, and in the context of the Ukraine situation, and in fact in all that you've been talking about supply chain rebalancing, has come to the forefront, which is Atmanirbharta. That we need to be self-reliant in those areas where the risks are large. In this context, of course, there are things that the government can do and things that industry can do and things that civil society can do. What would you think that industry should do? What do you think that the government should do to catalyze and speed up Atmanirbharta in key areas?
I think this India plus opportunity will happen in every industry. There is no question about it. It will happen across the board. So as I said, we have looked at precision manufacturing. We are looking at semiconductor assembly. We're looking at fab. We're looking at batteries. We're looking at software stack for future telecom technologies, ORAN, and the rest of it. We are studying healthcare. So these are global opportunities. And there will be opportunities in chemicals, there are opportunities in pharma, opportunities in defense. So all of this is going to be a huge opportunity. I think these are bets that people have to make, I feel. And a fundamental strength and investment in data and AI is going to be critical to do all of this, because each one of these we have the advantage of starting afresh, so we can do it differently. We don't have the baggage. So many of the things that you can do is you can start afresh with completely thinking software AI playing an important role in the way you build these businesses. And governments definitely have to do incentives and policies. I think that's all we can hope for. But I really feel that there's a big opportunity and there's a lot of funds available. Money is chasing these opportunities. So it's a question of identifying and making bets and executing. And in India, we just need those approvals and everything else that we need. And some of these things will require good environment, clean water, right geography location. So there are challenges of that kind, which I'm pretty sure everyone is aware, but the opportunity is real.
When you were in TCS, you had mentioned one thing which had caught my eye in one interview, which was that because the speed of change had become so fast, you had reduced the time on spending on building long-term strategies, but had wanted to create the organization to be agile, to experiment, and to fail fast. You know what I mean? So just build a muscle which can take punts and run with it and see where it goes and then kill it if it doesn't. Have you been able to spread that outside the TCS in other parts of the group?
I think some of our group companies are pretty strong, and Agile is, I mean, I call it speed. I called it speed earlier, but because it sounds very well with yes, but basically Agile is Agile. Every enterprise, in addition to being an AI enterprise, has also to be an Agile enterprise. As a management consultant, I think you will say it all the time. But the point I am making is that many of our consumer-facing companies have their culture, but in industrial companies, it's very hard. But having said that, we are doing a lot of pilots. For example, Narendran is here, even in Tata Steel, we are really looking at new materials in a big way. So we're looking at graphene, we're looking at some composites, which are very unique for medical equipments, which can make a fundamental difference to those industries. So we are doing multiple incubations, if you will, and we will scale up or kill it. So we are quite happy to incubate and kill. Okay, and that is something which is very difficult to do for organizations, but we are quite happy to do that.
So one of the things which is there is a balance that organizations have to have, which is when there is the opportunity spectrum is large. How do you decide what not to do?
So in fact, at least personally for me, strategy is the first chart of strategy is the not to do's. The second chart only starts with to do's. And I mean, I'm not saying a formula, but I've always felt that 85 to 90% of your business, you have a lot of predictability. And the remaining 10% is good for you to have volatility, and you can try different things. And every business has to decide that number, whether it's 5%, 10%, 15%. When you start making bets where everything can be volatile, then you need lots of luck. Otherwise, you can get in trouble. So that mix has to be decided in well-run businesses.
So in this case, just to push you further, who is doing the deciding not to do? Are the group companies doing the deciding not to do, or is the center deciding what not to do? Or
it's very difficult for, there are things that at the group level we can decide, but at every company we need as part of the strategy what not to do. It's very difficult because we are such a desperate businesses, and it's not a one-man's job. And we are a very thin center that way, if you look at the portfolio that we have. So it happens with at the company level, with the management, and as part of the strategy.
I'm going to ask a question which 2 days ago somebody posed to me. Actually, a German CEO posed to me. He said that only the Americans, maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, have managed to integrate into leadership disparate nationalities, and possibly a little bit the British. The Europeans have struggled with it, the Japanese have struggled with it, the Chinese have struggled with it, and the Indians have struggled with it. There are very few foreign CEOs that really succeed in many parts of the world. What do you think needs to be done for this? Why do you think the US and UK tend to do better than most of the rest of the world?
I think US is a pretty easy thing. It's an immigrant nation. So the country is built that way. So I don't think they're making any special efforts to do anything, but the country by nature is an immigrant nation. So everybody is there. So,
but there you will notice
that's one. That's one. The second thing is, it is not about integrating a particular race. It is being open for talent. So, in fact, in my own case, when I appointed a foreigner, and immediately somebody wrote to me saying that there are so many Indians, and Microsoft is led by Indian, and Google is led by Indian. Why can't you find an Indian? Okay, so these questions people will say, but the point is that the culture has to be open. Open culture is very important for talent, and I think there are three words I really feel are very important in business: open, transparent, integrated. All three are equally important. So it's about creating the culture to be open. It's not about getting this nationality or that nationality. I think it's a question of, if you feel that in order to do this job, you need a person, this particular person or person with these capabilities, then we should be open enough to be able to get that person, and we should be able to integrate that person. Otherwise, people will fail. I mean, anybody who is a CEO, unless or otherwise you back them, how do they perform? Talent is important, but the support system is equally important. And the Tata Group is good at providing the support. Once we have a team, I think we all rally behind the team.
So one of the allied questions I will continue to ask you on this is on two, and there are two strands to it, completely unconnected. There is one strand which says that, and there is now research being done on it, that in the US, South Asians have done much better than East Asians, dramatically better, in terms of their performance there. And the second question that I'm giving you already, so that you know that it's coming, is that what all has COVID taught you and the group about how to manage people differently? And what lessons will you take out of COVID well into the future?
And the first one, I think I can't really comment on it, Janmay, whether it is South Asians doing better than East Asians. I have no idea. You have a lot more data, a lot more research at your hand. But I feel there are talented people everywhere. And we just need to be very clear about what are we trying to do for that, what talent we need. And cultural fit is equally important as much as the skill and knowledge and intellectual capacity. Human relations is equally important. So whether a person will succeed in a particular ecosystem is also equally important. So it's not science, as you know, it's more figuring it out in your interactions. On the second one, I think there are many lessons. The first one I would say is that it is possible that the world economy can be brought to a halt in a matter of days. We can't say that world is too large, it's too big, huge economies. No, world can be brought to a halt. Simple. Second lesson is people are very resilient. The amount of hardship that we have gone through, and whether it is adults, whether it is younger people, whether it is poor, whether it is rich, whether it is adopting digital, whether it is living with restrictions, masks, or no movement. Do you remember there was a time that we couldn't get out of the building, get out of the house? We had to be in the house all day. It's just unbelievable. The human resilience is just phenomenal. I think these two will be, and then the third thing is you live in the same area as I do. So I could, in Pedder Road, I could see water on both sides. And you could hear the birds in the morning. So really, this sustainability thing, the carbon emission is a real stuff. And there are learnings like that, which are actually was on your face. I think those are the lessons I'll take. But in terms of business, I must say, it's I don't know whether it's the right thing to say, but I must say, so many opportunities have got created out of these last 2 years. So that needs to be addressed. And that's an opportunity, and I think we should. I believe this decade has a huge promise for India. And more than ever, Indians have become more aspirational. And Indians are ready for the future, and many Indians are creating that future. So I really feel that this decade is going to unfold beautifully. But we must make it count by addressing the gaps in the society. And as I said before, economy will be large. We will go to a 5 trillion, 8 trillion, per capita income will double. All this will happen. But can we all also at the same time address the things that we need to address so that the whole thing remains holistic? I feel that this COVID thing has also created a mindset change in the way you operate, because you feel that as businesses, we have it in us. We have the opportunity in us to be able to solve these problems if we work together and integrate it as part of business building. And that mindset shift has come about because of what we went through the last years. Otherwise, we were like running in one direction. There are a lot of, interventions that have happened in our own mindset, I feel.
So I'm going to, we have time for 2 more questions, and I'm going to, because you are my friend, going to ask you an easy question to end with. But because I'm a moderator, I'm going to ask you a really hard question right now. You know, when we look at India today, it is 3 countries. There are about 50 million Indians who are Europeans. There are about 425 million Indians who are Indonesians, and there are about 900 million Indians who are sub-Saharan Africans. What COVID has done has seriously damaged the sub-Saharan African Indians, you know, at that income level, so to speak, who have actually been hit very hard with a lot of periods of unemployment, and many of them were tipped over into poverty because of health impact that COVID had during this period. The Europeans actually did very well during this period. Company balance sheets became better, deleveraging. It was a time of phenomenal profitability. And the Indonesians are attracting, at that level, a lot of attention. And they are such a large country in India, about 420-30 million people, that it is enough to take us to 5-6 trillion, GDP without too much problem. It does seem quite often that the corporate sector focuses on Indonesia and above. And, the 900 million, of which actually 300 million are below sub-Saharan Africa from my parts of Bihar and Eastern UP and Jharkhand and Madhya Pradesh. What could be done to galvanize economic activity to deal with this massive hit that the informal sector has taken because of health effects during this period?
Again, that's what is actually, I think you have a very compelling way of putting it. It's exactly what I was referring to earlier. So we want to achieve this growth, tackle all these opportunities, leverage all these opportunities. In a way, we solve that particular segment, whether it is 900 million or whatever be the number. And how do you do that? I think the root has to be technology. The root has to be ensuring health, access to healthcare, access to education, and provide them access to the market. So the access problem is real. And unless you solve the access problem, you cannot solve their economic problem. In solving the access problem, you can create jobs. That is where the technology has to play a part. So I think access to healthcare, access to education, access to skills, by empowering the informal sector, unorganized sector, or informal jobs, you can bring them into the main fold, because they will have a process, they will have an upgradation program, they will do a slightly higher level of job, and their job will be seen as part of a value chain as opposed to some odd job that they are doing. And that's what we have to do. And that will also increase whether we'll eliminate informal jobs, I don't know, but definitely the proportion of formal to informal jobs will significantly change. That will give them job security. So many things will automatically happen. Otherwise, see, that's the point. In a force majeure situation, whether it is a pandemic, whether it is a calamity or a national disaster, when they lose big time. And that is why it's important to solve that access issue, I feel. It can't be done just by businesses. We have to work together. Businesses, government have to work together, and and also this will dramatically change the market opportunity. Imagine so many people coming into the market. So in India, it is not about automation taking away jobs. That is the argument in the West. Here, technology expanding the market. So it's a very different value proposition.
That's really profound.
Yeah, because in the West you talk about, I automate, bots come, so all my jobs will go. Here, no, doing this will bring them into the fold, and first time they'll participate in it. So their consumption spend will come into play, their housing needs will come into play, their healthcare needs will come into play, their mobility needs will come into play, their social entertainment needs will come into play. So many things will come into play. And so I feel that that's something that needs to be done. That's the way to address that. Otherwise, you can't directly see it as an economic opportunity.
I have not heard this formulation before, and it's quite profound and insightful that we should look at technology as creating rather than taking jobs. That's quite fantastic. Any last comment you have for, you will be pleased to know that we started with 5,100 people and now it's 5,200 people. So I must say you have not been boring, at least not to the 5,000 people who have been there. They have stayed on. Any last words you would tell them, how they should all get future ready in this time? They will be small businesses, other business leaders. What one piece of advice would you give them?
I don't want to give any advice except that it has been a privilege to have the CII platform, to be able to reach out to so many people, and I shared what I thought and what we see and what we are doing. But I firmly believe that this is a decade of consequence for India. It's a huge opportunity in whichever way you look at it. And we need to make this count, and at the same time address the problems we need to address. See, even this whole talent thing I said, I feel that if you do it properly, we will bring more women into workforce. I'm not saying it as a cliche because the women participation has been going down in India. In the last decade, it has come from 27% to 23%, if that's the statistics I have. But this can change because of the new talent model. The work from home is not going away. At the same time, that's not going to be permanent. So there are interesting ways that these things will evolve. And it will require all of us to learn. All of us learn new way of doing business, I feel. And there is no mantra. But I think sharing among us and learning is going to be very critical. Thank you once again, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you, Chandra. It's been a riveting conversation. At least I have had a great time engaging. And I'd also thank Chandrajit for setting it up. And I noticed both Naren and Sanjeev are there. I mean, it's the baton changing time from one president to the other. So I will say fantastic job done, Naren, and welcome aboard Sanjeev into this year ahead. And it's been a great afternoon of discussion on how to make India future ready. And we had the opportunity and the ability to listen to one of the foremost leaders in India today. So thank you so much, Chandra.
Thank you.